no tiene sentido. No tiene sentido. This is another good one. I really, I mean, I like more ¿Qué opinas? The one that we learned a few minutes ago. But no tiene sentido is a great phrase if you want to say it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. No tiene sentido. No means a bunch of things. No means don't, no, will not, or won't, didn't. Okay. It's very useful. It's very useful. So no in this situation means doesn't. Okay. Tiene comes from the verb tener, which means to have. So similar to saying, well, we don't have it here really because we're talking about the whole phrase. It's not a literal translation. So tiene means to have or has. In this situation, similar to saying it doesn't have or something like that. Sentido means sense. Okay? Sense. Oops. I missed an S. Sense. Sentido. Sentido can also mean when talking about hearing, talking, the senses. Hang on. Yeah, hearing or tasting, all those senses. You can call them sentido. Of course, you need to be specific. Sentido del oído. That means hearing, sense of hearing. Okay. Sentido del gusto. The tasting, the sense of tasting. Let me see. Okay. So touch also, what? I didn't know there were like 5 basic human senses. Touch, sight. Touch, I didn't know that was a sense. I don't know. For some reason, I didn't know. But yeah, touch, sight, hearing, smelling, and tasting. Those senses. I'm referring to those senses. So maybe in a future lesson we can talk about that, how to say all of them in Spanish. But the phrase no tiene sentido, let's focus on that, means it doesn't make sense. Okay? It doesn't make sense. You can use it by itself. You can say this to just as a phrase, you just want to say it doesn't make sense. No tiene sentido. You can say it just like that. Or it can be part of a whole sentence. So let's look at some examples using this phrase. Lo que dices no tiene sentido. Lo que dices no tiene sentido. This means it doesn't make sense what you're saying. Okay? That's essentially what you're saying here, what we're saying here. So let's break this down. Let's see how it works. Lo can mean it. Okay? Lo has a few meanings, a few meanings for sure. It can be a pronoun and it means it. It can mean him. It can mean you in formal situations. And also it can refer to other things like just it or stuff. So it depends how you use it. And it's a really helpful pronoun for sure. But when you say lo que, it's like saying what you're saying. Okay. So Let me just remove this here because we're not referring to that it. We're referring to what. Lo que means what. That as a phrase. You can say, lo que me gusta es salir de vacaciones. What I like is going on vacation, okay? Going somewhere on vacation. So you usually use it at the beginning of phrases to say what I like, what I hate, what I'm gonna do. So that's what you're saying here. And lo que is useful for those situations, just to say what dot dot dot. It's not like a question or anything like that. It's just something that you're gonna say something about what you like, you hate, or something that you're gonna do in general. Lo que voy a hacer, what I'm gonna do. Lo que quiero comer, what I wanna eat. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Lo que is a very interesting phrase, and we can talk about it in a future lesson, but it's really useful for sure. Lo que tú dices, we don't need tú, we need dices. Dices comes from the verb decir, which means to say. So dices means you're saying or you say, okay? But I mean, it makes more sense to say you're saying, okay? In this situation, lo que dices, what you're saying. We don't need you here, remember. We don't have tú. We don't have that. But this part, lo que dices, means what you're saying, okay? And then we have the verb that we're learning. No tiene sentido. It doesn't make sense. Okay? So you can do two things here. You can say lo que dices no tiene sentido, or no tiene sentido lo que dices. So it can be either way. No tiene sentido can go at the beginning or at the end of a sentence. Okay? So keep that in mind. It's flexible. It's flexible for sure. Okay. The next example. Let's look at the next example using no tiene sentido. By the way, if you want to say the opposite, it makes sense. Just remove no. You can say, tiene sentido lo que dices, or lo que dices tiene sentido. And that means what you're saying makes sense. Okay, so it's the opposite. The opposite. That's quite interesting, for sure. Okay, let's look at the next example. Let's see what we have here. No tiene sentido gastar tanto dinero en eso. No tiene sentido gastar tanto dinero en eso. This means it doesn't make sense to spend that much money on that. Whatever that means. We could be talking about phones, cars, anything that can be expensive. Very expensive. Muy caro. Okay. No tiene sentido. As you can see here, we have the phrase we're learning at the beginning of the sentence. It doesn't make sense. Gastar, if you want to add a verb right after no tiene sentido, you can add it in the infinitive form. So do not conjugate the verb. Do not conjugate the verb. I'm sorry, I need some water. Do not conjugate the verb. So just keep it as is. Okay. Gastar means to spend. Okay? So, no tiene sentido. If you want more, specifically a verb, it's like saying it doesn't make sense to, and then add the verb. In this case, gastar, spend. Okay? Tanto means that much. Okay? That much. Dinero, money. Tanto can also be feminine. Tanta comida, so much food. So it can also mean that much food. But tanto is a little flexible. It can mean that much or so much. Te amo tanto. I love you so much. Okay? So tanto can mean so much or that much. Dinero, money. En has many meanings. It can mean in, on, at. So in this situation means on. Eso means that. You can literally use eso just to show someone what you want. Eso, that. Okay, so eso is another great word to learn in Spanish. And interesting that you can use this phrase, no tiene sentido, just to say it doesn't make sense. Okay? The opposite is tiene sentido. It makes sense. So remember that. It's a good one for sure.